seems like accumulation on Bitcoin from the OI perspective, right? The second dip didn't go lower. There doesn't seem to be positions closing and exiting outside of what gets flushed out, and seems good. Now, another thing people are kind of something I'm very surprised about is that CME, the futures, just keep accumulating. This was not. You go back and listen to the fucking perma bears. They were telling you that CME, because for context, the CME futures open interest went crazy, right? From under 2 billion up into the ETF at over 6, tripled. And everyone's like, "Oh, you're fucked." Whenever the CME futures, when they all dump, well, guess what? They're fucking at 8 billion. They just keep adding. So Wall Street are bidding Bitcoin however they can, whether it's ETFs, whether it's CME futures, any access they can get. They're long, and they keep getting long. And obviously, for every long, there's a short. So people are still shorting this. A lot of times, people look at this and think that the OI going up again to 8 billion is bearish because people are getting too long. But CME futures is different. You don't have like 100x leverage, and it's typically the majority of it is smart money, or not. Again, it's not always smart money. It's probably the wrong way to say it because smart money can be anywhere, and dumb money can be on the CME. But dealer shorts peaked out in January, just before the ETF dropped off, picking back up. Asset managers got long, dipped off, coming up again. The one you want to look at is retail, non-reportables. So they spiked up at the end of December, and they're down again. I'm just looking at the longs here. Retail are not max long, right? This is retail because the non-reportables, they're the smallest guys. That's the minimum contract size. Generally, it only has to be 5 BTC as a minimum, which is still, one contract on the CME is 5 BTC. That's still 300k at these levels. So that's not it's not exactly small, but it is considered retail for CME. But yeah, as you saw during 2019, 2020, 2021, they were much, much higher. Retail were much more long, and ignore that anomaly that was right at the end of the bull market. But here, it's pretty steady. I wouldn't look at that and say, "Oh, they're going crazy." So overall, pretty good. Again, funding rates. You look at this, it's going to scare you. All the red. It's all bearish. Fundings are going wild, no doubt. Altcoins are definitely mostly being led by high funding rates at the moment. But Bitcoin is running its own game at the moment. Because the way I see it is Bitcoin's gone up because of predominantly Wall Street flows, ETFs. There's also rumors about the Saudis buying Bitcoin as part of not to replace the dollar, but de-dollarization is a real thing. And it's to reduce the reliance on dollars for international trade for Saudi between them and China or Russia, all these, sanctioned countries or unfriendly countries. And gold is a big part of that. And I've seen multiple different people who I would respect saying that Saudi, this is apparently a rumor that it's not unfounded, that they've been buying some Bitcoin and that their intention is to settle some of their oil trade in BTC, which is, if that comes out and that's valid and true, that's just that's insane. And that would explain part of the fucking endless bid as well, because that's huge. That is really big. That'll create some interesting geopolitical fucking dynamics though, because how are the US going to react whenever, let's say, Saudi and China and Russia make some agreement where part of their trade, like a very small, we're talking like 1%, but it's not about how much in dollar terms, it's about the act of doing it. If they say that we're going to start settling some of our trade with Bitcoin as the underlying collateral, that's fucking insane. The US, that's a big threat. So it'd be interesting to see how they react. But I guess the point is, you can't stop it. So thinking strategically, if the US, or especially with BlackRock and ETFs and all that, wouldn't it make more sense to have big exposure to Bitcoin yourselves? Because then, even if the other countries are using Bitcoin as their underlying, you're exposed to Bitcoin as well. I mean, you can't beat them, join them. It's gonna. This is what the Bitcoin maxes have always talked about as like the end game. That eventually it's just game theory. Eventually you have to get into the Bitcoin network because everyone else is doing it. You can't get left behind. So there's big announcements coming. I know it. It's just a matter of time. Whether it's Saudi, I'm not saying it's Saudi necessarily right away, but billionaires, big countries, companies, listed companies, they have to report, right, in April, May, once the quarter's over. They have to report if they bought any Bitcoin for the treasury in Q1. And this cycle is not driven by retail speculation so far. This cycle is driven by spot flows through ETFs and just the relentless spot bid that we've seen as well on exchange. If you're looking at like the spot CBD, both on the lower time frames and on the higher time frames. Higher time frames, spot CBD will always inflect downwards. If you go out, if you zoom out far enough, right, it always inflects downwards. At least it has done historically. But this turn since the start of the year is significant. Since the start of the year, there's just been continuous net spot buying, which we haven't seen in any sustained way since there was a little bit in March of 2023, a little bit in June of 2022. But really, since the last bear market was when we really saw a sustained positive slope on CBD in the midterm. And that looks like a reversal. That looks like a change of character. That doesn't indicate price. CVD is not accurate for price on low time frames, so you can't use it like that. Or sorry, on high time frames, you can't use it like that. There's so many other dynamics. This doesn't mean the price is only going to go up. Just like you've seen, the price went from 25 to 48 while CVD is going down. But the fact that it is shifted is of note. That's definitely something interesting to note. So, I think we've got a very interesting few weeks and months ahead. It's going to be fun. Halving coming up in less than 2 months. I'm here for it. So, GM, see you later. 5 p.m. we'll do Casual Fridays live stream. GM.